What's up, solutionaries? What's going on? Shouts to everybody. Started a little early. We're gonna get in here. We're gonna have this conversation. I think it's a very important conversation to have. Some people, to everyone that isn't here yet because we started early. Few things. One, this type of content we are transitioning over to youtube.com/Maj2Ray. That's number one. Stuff like this isn't gun related on one level, and so because of that, I want to make sure that we're putting more energy into my old YouTube channel. That is, I had it like forever, but I just never did anything with it. And I think it's important for us to, we got to talk about more than just, gun related things. But at the same time, some people they ain't really trying to hear gun related, stuff that's not gun related. So again, everybody, youtube.com/Maj2Ray. We're going to be going there in a little bit for content like this. Everybody that's coming again, the Solutionary Summit's coming, solutionarylifestyle.org. Please get your tickets. It's in Miami. I'm actually on my way down I'm in the RV now. I'm on my way down to Orlando. It's going to be a great time. I have some training to do down there, and then I'm going to shoot over to Miami to make sure everything is cool. People are coming in now. Hello, Paul Morrison. Everybody, as you come in, please hit the thumbs up button. We need a lot of energy. We need a lot of algorithms. They playing the game. So, we need everybody to support. Share this. If you have super chats, again, everyone that has a super chat, every single one of your donations for this work in the super chat, these donations in the super chat go towards the work. Our work at at Black Guns Matter, GoFundMe.com/Black Guns Matter. Donate there too. And this is crazy. Let me take a couple of these statements first. But again, if you have a business or if you have a more important, very impactful question, I'm going to do that based on super chat. So appreciate y'all for doing that. Paul Morrison, what's up? Manders, hello. Maj, can't wait to show you my video on Instagram going live. Okay, cool. The Melanated Cafe, we have to view everything is connected. Tamika Sparks with the wave and all of that. So let's get into it, y'all. Again, I tweeted yesterday something about and to the effect of there's a lot of more important shit going on in the world, and there is. The national debt is tremendously high. There is humans identifying as pronouns, women on the front lines for like actual war or what they're calling wars nowadays, conflicts. Just a bunch of shit is going on wrong in the world. Okay. Somebody said that. Could Bill Cosby be a distraction? It's a good question. Again, everybody that has questions, usually in the beginning, I try to give everybody some love on the questions, but y'all donate to the work. The work goes, your donations here that's in the super chat goes towards the GoFundMe work. We're trying to do all of that. Appreciate that, Andy. So, I tweeted something to the extent that, we're worried about a song in regards to the sister that chose to not stand for the national anthem, right? Danny Neba, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, says, love you, brother, and your IG. Keep spitting facts. I'm going to keep that up there for a while. And I was accurate, and I meant that. I meant genuinely, like, there's a lot of other stuff that we could be talking about as opposed to, like, what some song somebody stands up for or not. You know what I mean? Especially when you have a song, by Francis Keys, who wrote the national anthem, was clearly a racist. He was a lawyer. He wrote that song. The third verse meant hirelings as well as black people. He wanted them to die because they were choosing to fight with the British, who said, hey, if you break free, we'll give you your freedom and we'll give you some land. Blah, blah, blah. Whatever. You either know the history of the song or you don't. People were upset about it. And I'm like, yo, we got a lot more shit to talk about. We have a whole lot more things to talk about. Peter Sudol with the $5 super chat. Y'all say some questions and say something in the super chat. Promote your business or something like that. $5. If we can get to maybe like, I don't know, maybe like, let's try to get to like $200 or something like that. So I said, there's way more important stuff to talk about. And there is. There's serious conversations that we have to have in regards to ending the Fed. Joe Biden has been pushing for a very anti-gun agenda. So we have to focus on that. And then this bombshell happens where Bill Cosby is let free from jail. And then seeing that, I'm like, okay, I'm going to ignore it. But then I'm like, I've been kind of watching this the whole time for some years now. That case, I think, is like 9 or 10 years old or something like that at this point. But I paid attention. I looked in. I tapped in. I had my opinion. I kind of kept it quiet. I don't trust government at all. I don't trust. I understand that there's some people that play that. When you start talking about things, and some people don't want you talking about those things. Since I was little, Bill Cosby has been, a bastion of, wholehearted, wholesome comedy. He even chastised one of my other favorite comedians from way back in the day, Eddie Murphy, for being too dirty, right? But this thing happens with Bill Cosby. And for those of you that don't know, I was falsely accused of rape years ago. It was a rumble of a case, and, it was the worst 2 years of my life fighting that case. You know what I mean? But I was exonerated because I did the right thing. I never even slept with the girl. So I'm to a certain extent biased, but I'm also that bias means I don't just rush to believe anyone. Latina Hunter said, I hope Valuetainment brings you in for an interview. I don't know who that is, but I hope so too. Thank you for that super chat too. I'm biased because I don't just believe anybody. I don't believe, they believe women, believe men. I don't believe anybody. I believe facts. I believe the circumstance, the sum total of circumstances, all of these things, it pays to be objective. But when this happened, some people are not aware, just like in a lot of cases, like the George Zimmerman trial. You heard a lot of anti-gun people saying, this was a stand your ground trial. No, it wasn't. It unequivocally was not. It was not. It legit. The George Zimmerman case was not a stand your ground case at all. But the narrative continues to get repeated. So this is one of those cases where I felt like I would say something. Again, if you're just coming in right now, make sure you mash the thumbs up button. You haven't missed much if you came in. I'm just kind of giving it a quick breakdown. Mash the thumbs, like all of that other thumbs up, whatever it is on this particular platform. So I wanted to say something. I saw a guy that's from Philly, Mark Lamont Hill, who I've lost a lot of respect for over the last few years. He's from Philly, just like me. PeterSudol.com. Maj, keep doing you. I appreciate that, Peter. I just lost a lot of respect for him. He made a statement on the Breakfast Club referencing, the sea to the shining sea or something like that. Paul Morrison with the $5 chat. Victory Stone with the $5 chat says it only takes 51 of our support going to those doing the good work, and we can make a change. I appreciate that. So he said some things, and then I think he got fired from CNN. I'm not 100% certain because I'm no longer like a fan or supporter of his. I used to go to his bookstore in Philly all of the time, and I'll bring this to a point. He just after that, he kind of turned into this soft lefty. I mean, he was already kind of on the fence with me, but then it was just kind of whatever. I love what you do, brother. How people send a super chat at $5 while I only see $4.99. Somebody please help me. Somebody help the brother out. I don't know how to do this. I don't know. Y'all are better at this than me. So he brings up the Bill Cosby scenario, and he said, Bill Cosby's a sexual predator. Bill Cosby's this. Bill Cosby's that. Talking about the debt right off the bat, $23.3 trillion. Were you at PorcFest? No, I was not. I was in Texas for PorcFest. Jay Hugh, thanks for the sale the other day. Appreciate your support, everything you do. Please don't stop next year. Oh, what's up, Mr. Mel? How are you? That's the good brother down in South Carolina. That's the class I think we was at, or North Carolina, one of the Carolinas. I think it was North Carolina. Good brother there, y'all. Make sure y'all subscribe to him as well. Appreciate that, man. Well, I'm really appreciative of y'all with the what's the names? Thank y'all. $5 Moonsalt. Love what you do for the community. Appreciate that. So Mark Lamont Hill said this thing, and I completely disagree. What he said was, let's pull it up real quick. I'm getting better at this share screen and all that other good stuff. Let me share this with y'all. This is what Mark Lamont Hill said on Twitter about Bill Cosby. Bill Cosby is not innocent. He has not been exonerated. His release means that Cosby, a sexual predator, was incarcerated within a criminal legal system that has as little regard for its own rules and procedures as Cosby does for his victims. Now, let me be clear about this. I think that's stupid. I think that statement is dumb. And I'm going to go into reading some of the actual judgment from the Pennsylvania Supreme Court that actually explained why he was let off. And I want to give some backdrop into even some of the statements in the deposition, because people are running around saying, well, he admitted it in the deposition. You got to even ask the question of why somebody would even say something in a deposition that would be that incriminating. And most people don't even really have any facts to the story. They're just repeating these narratives. So I want to go back a bit. Now, one, again, I completely disagree with Mark Lamont Hill's statement. I will not be supporting in his going into his business and establishment anymore. Maybe I'll open my own bookstore up in Philly. Who knows? With that being the case, let me take y'all back, okay? Because some people get bits and pieces of information and don't really know what the fuck they're talking about. First of all, and I'll go back into Mark Lamont Hill and his personal or emotional statements towards Mr. Cosby in the scenario. We all pretty much agree that people get railroaded for whatever different reasons. I, fortunately, was not railroaded when I caught a false rape charge. Fortunately, the judge saw through it. The girl didn't take a rape kit, so forth and so on. There's people like, and I'll pull up in a second, people like Ronnie Long, who was in jail for 44 years for rape, was exonerated. But he was convicted and then had to fight for 44 years. Ronnie Long was in prison. Let's go back to Bill Cosby, though. Bill Cosby was initially charged with, and we're talking about this one sister from Montgomery County, and I want to read this, and I want to make sure y'all understand. This is the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania, the Middle District, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania versus William Henry Cosby Jr. This is number 39, MAP 2020. Appeal from the Order of Superior Court at number 3314, 88, 2018, dated December the 10th, 2019. Affirming the judgment, sentence dated, yada, 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 argued December the 1st, 2020, right? So I'm just giving y'all where I'm pulling this judgment from. Facts, okay, and why he was exonerated. I'm going to give y'all the breakdown. He was charged. And the sister that initially said this comes out and says, in 20, I want to say, was it 4? Whatever year it was, a year later, I always mess it up. It was either 2004 or 2014. But either way, the following year, if it was 2004, she didn't say anything or charge him until 2005. I want to say that, 2000 and then 2014, it was 2015 when she brought it up. The district attorney of that county at that time felt there was not enough information or not enough credible information to get a charge that would stick on Bill Cosby, especially if he invoked his Fifth Amendment right, which is your natural right to plead the fifth, to not say anything. So what that district attorney at that time did, and again, if y'all want to go through names, because there's a bunch of different names and I don't remember all of the names, I just remember specifically how this transpired. And their names change, right? So he says, what I'm going to do is I'm going to not San Antonio. That's where it was. It was San Antonio. It was San Antonio. I'm talking to the brother in the comment section. They said, we're not going to charge him. He felt the case wasn't strong enough. We didn't charge him criminally. He wanted the sister that young lady to have some semblance, and I'm going to read this, some semblance of justice, right? So he said, I'm not going to charge him, publicly made the statement, I'm not going to charge him criminally, but we're going to charge him civilly. She could, if you don't know, if you never caught a case before like OJ, you could win the criminal case and lose the civil case. Civil is where you got to pay money. Criminal is where you got to pay with your freedom. They literally said, we're not going to charge him criminally, we're going to charge him civilly. Boom. Bill Cosby agrees to that. He waives his constitutional right because they made a public statement saying, we are going to not charge Bill Cosby in a criminal matter. He got some money, woo, 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 so forth and so on. He agrees, he does the civil thing. And in that civil case, there was 4 depositions. And in those depositions, and I am going to paraphrase because you can read the depositions yourself, but a lot of people don't fucking read, so I'm going to give it a quick breakdown. In those depositions, he made incriminating statements. Now, what do I mean by incriminating? This does not mean that he was like, yeah, I raped him. It's not what happened. what he admitted to, and I'll read some of them. Actually, let me read a little bit of those. Let me pull some of that up. Here's one excerpt from one of them. Question: why didn't you ever take them yourself? This is him, Cosby, testifying that he had gotten Quaaludes from his doctor in Los Angeles in the 1970s. He said he was given 7 prescriptions for the now banned sedative, ostensibly for a sore back. Now, this is stuff from the 70s. I want to be clear on that. And this is some of the thing that they're talking about in excerpts from some of these depositions. Question: why didn't you ever take the Quaaludes? Answer: because I used them. The answer is Cosby. Question: for what? A, the same as a person would say, have a drink. Question: you gave them to other people? Yes. Question: why didn't you ever take them to self? Answer: I get sleepy. Question: how would you know if you never took them? Answer: Cosby. Quaaludes happen to be a depressant. I have had surgery, and while being given pills that block the nervous system in particular areas of muscle, the back, I found that I got sleepy and I want to stay awake. Question: is that why you don't drink alcohol? Exactly. This is, and I'm giving a primer to, these are some of the questions that he was asked in the deposition. Him explaining that he gave people drugs and he as well took different types of drugs at different points in time. Okay? The equivalent of that is every fucking rapper, every fucking pop star. Miguel had a song, how many drinks does it take for you to go home with me? Meaning, I'm taking you to the bar. I'm going to get you drunk. I'm going to get you buzzed. Then you're going to go home and we're going to get busy. We're going to get saucy. We're going to get good. Rick Ross had a song where I put a Molly in a drink. She ain't even know it. Right? And I'm not saying these things as an attack on the men or the women. It's not a statement of judgment. It's a statement of when you are out, when you go get a shorty, a bunch of drinks. That's why guys literally at the club, what you drinking, shorty? That's why women don't pay for drinks or weed a lot of times, okay? Because you want everybody, and if you smoke a drink, you're going to take the pills, the Molly, the whatever with them. Quaaludes at that time, because they went way back in some of these depositions, Quaaludes at that time were the drug of choice. If you ever watched the movie Wolf of Wall Street, that's an example of it, okay? So these are the things that they're calling incriminating in the deposition. With him saying, I gave them drugs and we took drugs together because it's what you do. So now what the narrative goes is he admitted to drugging women. Okay, so I want to go back there first. Okay, so I want to paint that picture correctly. Now going back to the corruption of the district attorney. Now again, this is me reading. See this? I don't know if y'all can see that. That's the actual screenshots of the judgment and what went into the actual Supreme Court judge saying fuck no. So rewind a bit. We're not going to charge him criminally. So the young lady that we feel there can be some semblance of justice, we're going to charge him civilly. The civil case, we're going to seal those documents. We're not going to charge him. And if he loses the civil case, the girl will get some money. If other women in Montgomery County come forward, then separate charges can be brung, but we're not going to bring criminal charges. We're not going to bring other criminal charges unless other women bring those charges. And even then, we will not use the depositions or the information when he is not using his Fifth Amendment in a civil case. We will not bring that information of what's discussed in that civil case to any other cases that may happen in Montgomery County. That's what they said. They made a public statement of it. Bill Cosby then goes and says, okay, he gives the depositions, and what they're calling incriminating evidence is him admitting, I gave them drugs. Well, why'd you have the Quaaludes? Blah, 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 blah. Fast forward. That's what happens. Anyone of you contradictory motherfuckers that didn't like you, the girl was drunk, but not too drunk. And again, we're not saying take advantage of women. We're saying if the norm is to people take drugs and you're partying, and if you admit that I gave people drugs that I had and I took the drugs myself for these reasons, yes, it is an incriminating statement, and they will use everything that they say against you. But the narrative switching that mainstream media is doing is if he was just giving them pills and waiting for him to pass out and then do X, Y, and Z. No conversation about the women that tried to come forward and say we were approached to say things about Bill Cosby that weren't true. That's not in the conversation at all. That's not in the conversation. So go back to the court case. They then say that particular district attorney is no longer the district attorney anymore. A new district attorney's office is in position. They say, you didn't have a contract. That was something that district attorney just said, and fuck that. We're now charging you criminally. That's what happened. It's not me making it up. Let's read some. Along with top deputy prosecutor and experienced detectives, District Attorney Castor, the first one, thoroughly investigated Constance. That's the shorty's last name, the original shorty from this particular Montgomery County case. Constance claimed, in evaluating the likelihood of a successful prosecution of Cosby, the district attorney foresaw difficulties with Constance's credibility as a witness. They saw difficulties with her credibility as a witness, based in part upon her decision not to file a complaint promptly. DA Castor further determined that a prosecution would be frustrated because there was no corroborating forensic evidence and because testimony from other potential claimants against Cosby likely was inadmissible under governing laws of evidence. So they don't got no evidence. Shorty waited a year. Her testimony is shaky at best. We don't think we could win this case. But what we're going to do is we're going to trick them and say, yo, we won't prosecute you if you take the civil case. Okay? The collective weight of these considerations led DA Castor to conclude that unless Cosby confessed, quote, there was insufficient credible and admissible evidence. I'm going to read a little bit more. Okay? Seeking, quote, some measure of justice, end quote, for Constance, DA Castor decided that the Commonwealth would decline to prosecute Cosby for the incident involving Constance, thereby allowing Cosby to be forced to testify in a subsequent civil action under penalty of perjury without the benefit of his Fifth Amendment privilege against self-incrimination. Unable to invoke any right not to testify in civil proceedings, Cosby relied upon the district attorney's declination and proceeded to provide 4 sworn depositions. This is what I just said. I'm saying what I know from the case, and then I'm reading y'all in the judgment. You got to fucking read, y'all. Stop just saying stuff. Mark Lamont Hill just saying shit out of his mouth, attacking someone that has been railroaded, as if people don't get railroaded in this system all of the time. But I'm going to read on a little bit. Cosby relied upon the district attorney's declination and proceeded to provide 4 sworn depositions. During those depositions, Cosby made several incriminating statements. Again, we go back to that word incriminating. It does not mean he was like, yeah, I raped him. It just means, yeah, I gave him drugs. And they cut the sentence off there. It ain't, I'm not saying the narrative cuts it off there. It doesn't, not in the deposition itself. Not, yeah, we all took drugs. It's what we did type shit, right? I'm paraphrasing. D.A. Castor's successors, the new district attorney people, did not feel bound by his decision, meaning the new district attorney folks didn't feel bound by the agreement that the district attorney and Bill Cosby had. We're not going to prosecute you. We're just going to open you up to the civil case to trick him, because in a civil case, you can't plead the Fifth. And decided to prosecute Cosby, notwithstanding that prior undertaking. The fruits of Cosby's reliance upon D.A. Castor's, first DA, decision, Cosby's sworn inculpatory testimony, were then used by D.A. Castor's successors against Cosby at Cosby's criminal trial. The criminal trial that the district attorney said, we're not going to charge you. He agrees. Boom. They hit him with the civil. Then they used the 4 depositions of him saying, we was all, I'm paraphrasing, we was all taking drugs. And say, yup, he agreed to drugging people. That's the narrative that went out on television. But you motherfuckers, maybe not y'all in here, but you motherfuckers don't read. So you went with what TV said, and you got Mark Lamont Hill saying clown shit. Let me read this screen. If you're just coming in, hit the like button, hit the thumbs up. I'm going to share this of what Mark Lamont Hill said on Twitter about Bill Cosby. Bill Cosby is not innocent. He has not been exonerated. His release means that Cosby, a sexual predator, was incarcerated within a criminal legal system that has little regard for its own rules and procedures as Cosby does for his victims. Now, what I do agree with him is the district attorney did play dirty, because I'm going to go further. Let's read some more. DA Castor's successors did not feel bound by his decision, decided to prosecute Cosby. I think I already said that. Having determined that a criminal trial likely could not be won, DA Castor contemplated an alternative course of action that could place Constant on the path to some form of justice. He decided that a civil lawsuit for money damages was her best option. To aid Constant in that pursuit as the sovereign, and what sovereign means is, he in essence said, I'm going to just make this decision. But that's not what he did, because he communicated with Bill Cosby's legal team. Right? That as the sovereign is in quotation marks. The district attorney, quote, decided that his office would not prosecute Cosby, end quote, believing that his decision ultimately, quote, would then set off the chain of events that he thought as a minister of justice would gain some justice for Andrea Constant, end quote. What that means is, if I play it this way, tell him, then she'll get some justice, right? And then the chain of events is, I'm not going to be the district attorney anymore. Now you can't prove that that was his thought process. Now the new successors don't honor that commitment that he made to Bill Cosby, because Bill Cosby could have just said, no, I'll plead the fifth and beat the criminal case, right? That's what would have happened. And then there would have been no deposition to take to the civil case. So he might have beat the civil case too, but they did it in reverse. And there's no way to prove that he was operating in good faith. Okay, let me read some more. By removing the threat of a criminal prosecution, DA Castor reasoned Cosby would no longer be able in a civil lawsuit to invoke his Fifth Amendment privilege against self-incrimination for fear that his statements could later be used against him by the Commonwealth. Mr. Castor would later testify that that was his intent. He said, notably, when he decided to not prosecute Cosby, he, quote, absolutely, end quote, intended to remove, quote, for all time, the possibility of prosecution, end quote, not end quote, because the ability to take a Fifth Amendment is also for all time removed. So let's add a little bit more to this, to what's going on here, because it could get tricky. Castor says, we're not going to charge you, to trick him into saying, okay, cool, we're not going to charge you. If you would have charged him, he would have pleaded the fifth, which is what his constitutional right is to do. It's not me saying constitutional right. It's his actual constitutional right to plead the fifth, to not say nothing. Shut up, lawyer up. I'm shutting up even in court. To trick him out of that, he agrees publicly, yo, I'm not going to charge you. Take the civil case. Since I can't charge him in the future either, whatever said in the civil case, at best, if he loses in the civil case, he just pays some money. The new district attorney that comes in says, yo, fuck that. We not honoring that. Uses the depositions in a criminal trial, even though the district attorney's office said we're not going to charge you. That gets appealed, and the lower court, or the higher than the first court, the middle court, says we got to uphold this because we can't go back on that, because we believe that the district attorney at that point, the new district attorney said, well, that old district attorney was just, there was no contract. There was no legitimate contract between Bill Cosby's team and the district attorney. That's just something that the district attorney at that time just decided to do unilaterally. That's what they said. So that decision was upheld. So when these goofballs are like, he was convicted of this twice, he did it in the lower court, then the middle court, and they upheld the decision. No, they upheld the fact that when it was like, yo, we would have not even went this way, and that's wrong. You can't do that. Never mind the other information of the woman that they used, the reason why they didn't want to go to the criminal situation, because she wasn't credible in the first place. I mean, if y'all hear me, I don't know, maybe I'm talking and nobody's saying something. Type some words in here in the chat and let me know if y'all feel it. Hit the thumbs up or something. So y'all see how this is starting to look now? So then the middle court says we got to uphold that decision because we have no way of proving that that district attorney didn't just move unilaterally. It's an unprecedented situation. Basically, if one district attorney says something and he's no longer the district attorney, can the new district attorney office honor that? And they're supposed to. But their argument was, we don't have to honor that. That's what their argument was. Oh, okay, I was just trying to make sure I was still recording. Right? So they say we don't have to honor this. That next court says, well, now let's read some more. This is what the guy said. Notably, I read that part. The trial sought clarification from Mr. Castor. This is the next level up. About his statement in his second email to DA Furman that he still believed that a prosecution was permissible as long as Cosby depositions were not used in such proceedings. So now he's going back off of what he said, right? Now he's saying, well, maybe y'all can prosecute him, even though I said we wasn't going to prosecute him. Y'all district attorney's office, since I'm not the district attorney anymore, y'all may be able to prosecute him in criminal court, even though I said I wouldn't, if y'all just don't use what the depositions that was in the civil case, right? Specifically, former DA Castor stated that what he was trying to, quote, trying to convey to Mrs. Furman was that his binding of the Commonwealth not to prosecute Cosby was not for any crime in Montgomery County for all time. Like, they just caught up in all of their lies, like back-to-back lies, like no bullshit, right? As noted, the trial court denied the motion, finding that then DA Castor never, in fact, reached an agreement. This is the second court, y'all. Reached an agreement with Cosby or even promised Cosby at the Commonwealth would not prosecute him for assaulting Constant, or what she called assault. Instead, the trial court considered the interaction between the former district attorney and Cosby to be an incomplete and unauthorized contemplation of transactional immunity. Let me stop there for a second. The next court up says, well, that wasn't really a deal that y'all had. If it wasn't a deal, but Bill Cosby's legal team wouldn't have approached it the same way. Now they were reneging and then saying, well, y'all ain't really have a real deal, right? The trial court found no authority for quote, the proposition that a prosecutor may unilaterally confer transactional immunity through a declaration as the sovereign, end quote. Rather, the court noted such immunity can be conferred only upon strict compliance with Pennsylvania's immunity statute, which is codified at 42 PACS 5947, and then the statute is after that. So basically what that means is the court was like, yo, that district attorney was moving unilaterally and he didn't have the right to just say, I'm not going to charge him criminally, so we're going to maintain the case. Fortunately, Bill Cosby had some money, fought it all the way up to the Supreme Court. That's where it gets tricky. That's where people like Mark Lamont Hill are still calling him a sexual predator without information about the actual deposition in full, not knowing this process, not seeing how dirty, y'all, initially the first DA said, she's not a credible witness. There's no information. Then, on top of that, saying we're not going to prosecute him, to trick him to give a deposition and then use that in the case later. Then, even on witnesses, they then said, this girl isn't credible because she waited for, this was however many years ago. They went and got a bunch of women that they found and just got them to saying shit and saying like, yo, if Shorty from just 10 years ago, however long ago, is incredible, they brought witnesses from like 88, from the 70s. That's why some of that deposition is talking about in the 70s and the 80s. So if the first witness isn't credible with lack of information for a few years back, why the fuck do you think somebody from the 70s and 80s is? They let one of those witnesses in when they shouldn't have also. So it looked dirty on how they played with basically they character assassinated him when they shouldn't have, on top of that. And that's what the Supreme Court was evaluating, okay? So again, that's what happened in that regard, okay? So on May 24th, 2016, following a preliminary hearing, all of Cosby's charges were held for trial. Thereafter, Cosby filed a number of pretrial motions, including the petition for a writ of habeas corpus, a motion to dismiss the charges on due process grounds. Y'all didn't give me due process. Y'all didn't do this right. and most pertinent here, a motion to suppress the contents of his deposition testimony and any evidence derived therefrom on the basis that the district attorney's promise not to prosecute him included him to waive, they included that in the languaging, included him to waive his Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination, end quote. After holding a hearing on the suppressed motion at which no new testimony was taken, the trial court again concluded that former District Attorney Castor's testimony was equivocal, credited the testimony of Constance's attorneys, and found that no promise or agreement not to prosecute existed. Having so determined, the court discerned, quote, no constitutional barrier to the use of Cosby's civil deposition testimony. So that's what they found in the second court. Then again, we get up to the Supreme Court. Okay? This is what, I'm going to read this one from the middle court. And then I'm going to go up into the Supreme Court. I think this is important. On September 6, 2016, the Commonwealth filed a motion to introduce evidence of other bad acts of the defendant. That's when the prosecution did that. We're going to add, this is the girls. We're going to add this too, right? Which Cosby opposed by written response. The Commonwealth sought to introduce evidence and testimony from other women who alleged that Cosby had sexually assaulted them, instances that could not be prosecuted due to the lapse of applicable statutes of limitations. They don't even have, the statutes of limitations is over, but they were still throwing them women in there, which is against the rules. On February 24th, 2017, the trial court granted the Commonwealth's motion, even though it's beyond the statute of limitations, but permitted only one of these alleged past victims to testify at Cosby's trial. On December 30th, 2016, Cosby filed a motion seeking a change in venue. The trial court kept the case in Montgomery County. He knew he was going to get railroaded. He tried to get a different venue. They kept the case in Montgomery County, but agreed that the jury should be changed and shit. Now, again, y'all, when these people are talking about he's a rapist, it's like, when people said Tupac was a rapist. Tupac got convicted and went to jail of sexual battery, which is like the equivalent of somebody touching somebody's butt. The same girl that said he sexually raped her gave him a blowjob 2 weeks prior on the dance floor in the club in Las Vegas. Okay? So when people say he was raped, he raped people, that's not what happened. Same thing here. People, he was drugging. Again, read the full depositions. Talking about, and it is incriminating because you agreed that you gave people drugs even if you took them too, which was the style, which is dumb, retardedly the style now. Future got songs about it. Everybody got songs about it. Okay? 40 years from now, if a bunch of women come forth and say, he gave me syrup, and he go, yeah, I gave her syrup. We all had syrup. He incriminated himself in that deposition. Right? So they lied. They tricked him in the agreement to say, we won't give you criminal charges. You agree to civil charges. You withhold you don't do the fifth. You give a deposition. Then when the new DA came in, they ignored that agreement. The next court upheld that. Then he fought it all the way up to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court says we are not bound by the lower court's legal determinations that derive from those factual findings. Thus, the question becomes whether and under what circumstances a prosecutor's exercise of his or her charging discretion binds future prosecutors' exercise of the same discretion. That is a question of law. What that means is, if the first dude says, we ain't going to charge you, and he's no longer the dude, does the second person have to honor that? It's the district attorney's office. It's not all of those rules are out of the window when a new person take over. No, you got to uphold that agreement that was made. You wasn't there when that first agreement was made. They tried to do that dirty. Then they add all of that, these witnesses that were not credible, which is why the first lady couldn't even have a criminal charge case in the first place. They brought these other witnesses that were not credible, that were outside of the statute of limitations. Let one of them women that was against the rule go. And fortunately, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court recognized all of this injustice. Again, I'll read that again. We are not, however, bound by the lower court's legal determinations that derive from those factual findings, meaning the statements that he made in the deposition, I took drugs and I gave them drugs, paraphrase. Thus, the question becomes whether and under what circumstances a prosecutor's exercise of his or her charging discretion binds future prosecutors' exercise of the same discretion. That is a question of law. For the reasons detailed below, we hold that when a prosecutor makes an unconditional promise of non-prosecution, which is what the original DA did, and when the defendant relies upon that guarantee to the detriment of his constitutional right to not testify, I'm listening to y'all agreement, so I'm going to waive my right to a fifth, plead a fifth. Then in doing so, y'all then put me in a trick bag and then charge me, y'all, the state is wrong. When a defendant relies upon that guarantee to the detriment of his constitutional right not to testify, Fifth Amendment, the principle of fundamental fairness that undergirds due process of law in our criminal justice system demands that the promise be enforced. Prosecutors are more than mere participants in our criminal system. This is the judgment. Prosecutors are more than mere participants in our criminal justice system. As we explained in Commonwealth v. Clancy, prosecutors inhabit three distinct and equally critical roles. They are officers of the court, advocates for the victims, and administrators of justice. As the Commonwealth's representatives, prosecutors are duty-bound to pursue equal and impartial justice and to serve the public interest. While the prosecutor's discretion in charging decisions is undoubtedly vast, it is not exempt from basic principles of fundamental fairness, nor can it be wielded in a manner that violates a defendant's rights, the defendant being Bill Cosby. The foregoing precedents make clear that at a minimum, when a defendant relies to his or her detriment upon the acts of a prosecutor, his or her due process rights are implicated. The 14th Amendment to the United States Constitution and Article 1, Section 9 of the Pennsylvania Constitution mandate that all interactions between the government and the individual are conducted in accordance with the protections of due process. See Commonwealth v. Sims. Noting that federal and state due process principles generally are understood as operating coextensively. In accordance with the advice of his attorneys, Cosby relied upon D.A. Castor, the first D.A., Castor's public announcement that he would not be prosecuted. His reliance was reasonable, and it resulted in the deprivation of a fundamental constitutional right when he was compelled to furnish self-incriminating testimony. Come on, y'all. Cosby reasonably relied upon the Commonwealth's decision for approximately 10 years. He's been dealing with this case for 10 years, been in jail for 2. District Attorney Castor knew that Cosby would be forced to testify based on the Commonwealth's assurances, knowing that he induced Cosby's reliance and that his decision to not prosecute was designed to trick Bill Cosby. That part's a paraphrase. The impact of the due process violation here is vast. The remedy must match that impact. Starting with District Attorney Castor's indictment, Cosby gave up a fundamental constitutional right, was compelled to participate in a civil case after losing that right, testified against his own interests, weakened his position there, and ultimately settled the case for a large sum of money, was tried twice in criminal court, was convicted, and has served several years in prison. All of this started with District Attorney Castor's compulsion of Cosby's reliance upon a public proclamation that Cosby would not be prosecuted. The CDO's remedy for all of this would include subjecting Cosby to a third criminal trial. That is no remedy at all. Rather, it is an approach that would place Cosby nowhere near where he was before the due process violation took root. There is only one remedy that can completely restore Cosby to the status quo. He must be discharged, and any future prosecution of these particular charges must be barred. We do not dispute that this remedy is both severe and rare, but it is warranted here, indeed compelled. So when I hear people like Mark Lamont Hill or some of you goofies on the internet that didn't read any of the fucking dispositions, just Mark Lamont Hill has a personal vendetta for Bill Cosby. When there's women that have been coming forth saying, people told me to say this shit. Let's pull something else up real quick. Let me share this with y'all. Bill Cosby accuser admits concocting story for a memoir. And what could be a major blow to the prosecution's sexual assault case against Bill Cosby, a former model and reality star, TV star, admitted on the witness stand Thursday that she fabricated passages in a memoir, including a story of rebuffing the comedian's advances. Janice Dickinson, y'all know her. This chick here from, I think it was America's, one of them reality joint with Simon on it, Simon Cowell. Janice Dickinson took the witness stand in Pennsylvania courtroom, testifying in Cosby retrial on 3 counts of aggravated indecent assault, not rape. Called by the prosecution, the 63-year-old Dickinson recounted a 1982 incident in Lake Tahoe, California, hotel room in which she says she was drugged and raped by Cosby. Quote, he was America's dad on top of me. Here was America's dad on top of me, a happily married man with 5 children, end quote. Dickinson testified in Montgomery County in Norristown. Quote, and I remember thinking how wrong it was, how very wrong. She told the jury that she passed out during the assault, saying it was gross. Dickinson said she confronted Cosby the day after the alleged assault, but he did not acknowledge it occurred. I wanted to hit him, she testified. I wanted to punch him in the face. Under cross-examination, Cosby's attorney confronted Dickinson about the 2002 ghostwritten memoir, No Lifeguard on Duty, pointing out her description of the assault differed wildly from the Lake Tahoe encounter with Cosby she described in her memoir. Dickinson acknowledged that she concocted stories in the book in order to get a much-needed paycheck. So you got guys like Mark Lamont Hill saying this dumb shit that didn't read transcripts, depositions, none of that. You got people just throwing these words out here. Don't know what they're talking about. Didn't read. And I have to now do this video. I don't know if this is if my signal is weak. Nobody said nothing in here in a long ass time, so I don't know what the fuck is going on. I don't know if I'm not on Wi-Fi. I have no idea. If y'all are just intrigued, I have no idea. But the comments have actually like stopped. I don't know. What the fuck? The last comment was Jabrina. She says, I'm a behavior therapist, which means I study personalities. He's able to do dark shit, maybe. But that don't change the fact that his constitutional rights were violated. We can't then say, we want due process and a fair justice system if people aren't even getting justice in the first place. So I'm going to end this live here, y'all. Save it. Again, everybody, man. YouTube.com/Maj Toure. Make sure you guys are saving this, sharing it. Subscribe to that channel because this type of conversation has nothing to do with guns. And I want to make sure we're having these type of discussions over there on those platforms where it's, it's a little bit more appropriate. I get everybody might want to come to the YouTube channel, this Black Guns Matter channel for that. Solutionary Summit, solutionarylifestyle.org. Get tickets to that. We're going to talk about this, man. Just information. Again, comment, share this, toss it around with people around. Share the information and let people know exactly what's going on. Again, if anybody wants, the transcripts and all that other good stuff, I have them. Donate to the GoFundMe, gofundme.com/Black Guns Matter. We got to do the work. But I just wanted to jump on here real quick before I get back on the road down to Florida and give some critique on this. So thanks again, y'all, for listening. Be safe, be solutionary.